Of the Local Government Corporation's Board of Directors to order here on Wednesday, June 6, 2012. And we do have a quorum of the board members present. Thank you, board members, for being here today. Board and Karen, thank you all for being here this morning as well. The first item of business for the body to consider would be the approval of the minutes from our previous meeting held on May 16, 2012. Provided electronically with a copy of the minutes from that meeting. Quinn, you were missed at that meeting. We made great progress, though.
You did make good progress. Maybe I'll leave this one so you'll do the same.
Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to consider regarding the minutes? And if not, I would entertain a motion to be approved.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Minutes be approved. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor of the approval of the minutes, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved and the minutes are approved. Item number 3 on our agenda is consideration of an action item, and it's regarding what we have stylized or characterized and called a prime lease. It might be called a ground lease. It is the lease that has been drafted between the City of Amarillo and the Local Government Corporation on the 2 square blocks that we're all quite familiar with. The block immediately south of the Globe News Center where the hotel will be developed, and the block to the south of that, the former home of the police department, the municipal jail, and the municipal courts building. The document would cause the Local Government Corporation to lease from the city those 2 square blocks, which in turn allows the Local Government Corporation to, per the lease and development agreement, which we considered and approved at our last meeting, would allow us to in turn lease that property to Wallace Pajali Development Partners for the actual development of the hotel and the parking structure. So it's a pretty straightforward document. The Amarillo City Commission approved from their perspective that prime lease last week,
A week ago.
And it is before us for our consideration. We provided a copy of that lease document in your packet. Pretty straightforward document. Mr. City Manager, is there anything that you or your staff would like to add regarding that document?
Well, just first off, I really want to thank the committee for the efforts that they put forth toward working through this. Certainly the City Commission's for their consideration. Remind this board, this is a contemporaneous requirement with that lease and development agreement that was approved at the last meeting.
And again, our document committee has reviewed this. It really works hand in glove with that lease and development agreement in terms of terms and rents and those kinds of things. So they were designed to be related documents as we move this forward. Are there any questions from the board concerning the proposed prime lease? Or comments? No?
It looks strange.
It is kind of
That
strange.
vacant lot.
Oh, it's clean as a whistle over there, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. Well, do you need an action motion?
We do need...
I move that we accept and adopt the prime lease agreement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the prime lease be approved for execution. Any questions? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion to approve the prime lease, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Prime lease is approved. Moving on. We're moving quickly today. We promised a short meeting. Item number 4 is an update on downtown redevelopment project status. Of course, what we've just done is really the first step in terms of us meeting our obligations as the LGC in a series of things leading to the commencement of the project under the lease and development agreement. So that's an item that we can check off the list. The new document committee has been working per your instruction and guidance in finalizing the lease and development agreement in terms of confirming the last bits and pieces of that document per your action release shortly being able to execute the lease and development agreement contemporaneously.
I learned that word
Manager,
today. I have to ask.
with the prime lease. So it was necessary actually for the prime lease to be in place in order for us to convey to Wallace Majala the lease and development agreement, those two pieces of property. So those things are happening simultaneously. In terms of other status kind of issues regarding downtown, I know the City Commission took action on the most recent Tiers project, and that was regarding Amarillo College. Right?
That was, and that was, as we learned yesterday, that was the Tiers' first project that they did under their short form project, which was designed to provide a finite amount of help to a project to do so quickly, to get it moving, and to encourage the streetscapes. So the project yesterday was $50,000 to go towards $102 for the sidewalk portion of what Amarillo College is doing on their Corp Street campus. I think the Tiers having that in place will certainly help them move and move quickly as projects of all sorts and sizes come to it over the next little bit.
Melissa, anything from DAI's perspective? Okay. You might inform the group. We were talking before the meeting. One of our objectives when we embarked on this was to change the trend line as it relates to downtown Amarillo development. And you'll recall back when the downtown Amarillo strategic action plan was completed back in 2006. One of the findings of that document was that the property values in the core of this community had been stagnant for 2 decades, like no growth, stagnant. The rest of the city growing in property values. And so one of the things that we hope to accomplish when we embark upon this effort was to try to change that trend line. And that trend line has changed, and I don't know that we've realized it. You might kind of quote the facts.
Well, from 2007 through 2011, 5-year period, the downtown property values have grown 35.7%. So average of 7+% per year versus the 0.00 whatever percent basically flatline the previous 20. So that's, when I came here, that chart was really said it all, that sort of flatline. You had the city's growth and you had downtown growth. And that kind of said it all as to why we're all here and why we're doing this. And so I think turn that corner. I mean, still lots of work to do to keep that going up, but downtown will start to catch up to some extent.
Pretty impressive statistic. Stepping back. Very. I guess that's anything else regarding that?
Well, if you'd like, I guess first we talked about the new vacant lot, that we own, but just to keep this board, to keep the public aware of kind of how the process will begin to roll now. We've got the lease and development agreement, we have the prime lease. Those documents contemplate certain duties and obligations, both on behalf of the LGC and various partners of the LGC and for the public. So what will come before this board over the next little bit, if you'll recall back to August when the projects were initially approved, they do contain 2 different tiers agreements. Those tiers agreements will be considered and acted upon by the tiers board. Those will go through the same standard process that all other tiers projects go, ultimately ending up back here with this body. Same thing with Center City. That will be a contract direct between Center City and this body. It will not go through the county nor the city commission. The city commission will be considering at an appropriate time in the future the rebate agreements, the rebates that were budgeted back into the original project in August. As a quick reminder, those rebates are first of the hotel tax generated only by that hotel. No other hotel occupancy tax coming to it, but merely that coming from that. And a rebate of the state of the sales tax generated only at that hotel, going back only to that hotel. Each of those agreements are for different time periods. All of those time periods are really kind of non-negotiable. They're actually spelled out in state statute. The state has made allowances for these. They've had allowances for many years. So city commissioners, you will see that at some point in the not too distant future. Your approval today of the prime lease has begun the process of the local government corporation beginning to satisfy its obligations, or what's called in that document, the conditions to commencement. So you've taken a big step today. By my count, we've knocked off 5 of those items as we go forward just with this prime lease, in addition to the prime lease itself. So I would suggest that while we're still, certainly we don't have steel sticking up out of the ground, we've got a good, clean piece of ground to get started. As we walk through the remainder of these legal items, you're making excellent progress, and that'll do nothing but continue to accelerate until we do have the construction over there.
And I wouldn't necessarily characterize those incentive agreements as being routine, but I think those are all items that have been previously discussed by the bodies, previously tentatively agreed upon by the bodies, and it's just a matter of getting it done in the appropriate order, and we're moving forward in the appropriate way, in the appropriate order to get those things done. So I'm feeling good about where we are progress-wise. Okay, I think that constitutes the status report for agenda item number 4.
Do we know anything about PID and what's going on with PIDs, or we got any information on those? Or
They're just, go ahead, Melissa, they're studying.
Yeah, basically most of the components of the study that's been done by Jacob are done. What Jacob did was develop the tools for us to be able to move forward on a PID at whatever point we choose to move forward. So there's an interactive spreadsheet that allows us to figure out revenues at different rates and different boundaries. As you change them, all the numbers change automatically. There's a PID draft project plan that we can use to basically fill in the blanks, and they're completing now a list of sort of items we can pick from and costs. We want to do this and cost that for X amount of blocks, that kind of thing, so we can sort of pick and choose. And so those tools have basically been just about complete except for the costs that need to be finalized. And they also studied other cities, and they did a report on 3 other cities and what they charge and what their services are. And those are mature PIDs that have been around for 20 plus years, so we have to take that into consideration. I did ask them to go back and look at how they started, because we'll, start at a lower amount and hopefully increase services over time. And so those are pretty close to done, and basically at this point we'll start meeting with some of the major property owners to sit down and kind of get some of their thoughts on the services. And this is going to start out at a pretty basic level if we're able to move forward. Street, picking up trash, landscape maintenance, keeping everything sort of cleaned up and secured. So we'll start meeting with major property owners to talk to them about their thoughts and get some ideas on how we move forward. If we move forward now, if we move forward later.
And I think it's important for everybody to continue to understand it's the property owners that will make the ultimate decision as to whether or not such a tool is instituted and what it's going to look like. So it will be up to those property owners in the downtown area to decide their own fate in regard to that. Hey,
Look, this is just a dumb question from my in this PID procedure. Does the corporation have the same rights and vote as an individual does?
Well, you have a PID board that's established. Once you establish a PID, then that.
But I mean, even in making the vote to establish the PID.
You mean in terms of the ownership, if the property is corporately owned versus individually? That's what he's asking. And so the owner.
So what is your question on that?
Well, Ron Boyd owns where Duncan and Boyd Jewelry. Let's say he owns that car. And the building next to him is owned by XYZ Corporation, not an individual.
Right.
Does that corporation, are they a legal entity whereby they can vote for or against the PID?
Yes.
Okay.
Whoever is shown as on PRAD as owning the property
Has the vote.
has the vote.
Okay.
Doesn't matter who the tenant is. If there's a tenant.
And it may be a board rather than a
Yeah.
individual.
However they function, they're, that entity, person, corporation, whatever.
The owner of record.
Person of record that would have to sign the petition, whether it's the CEO or president of some board or whoever it is.
Because I know when it comes to property taxes, corporations don't have much of a voice to oppose property tax increases.
Well, they would have a voice in this, because there's a petition drive, and you're going to have to show who supports it and who doesn't.
Square deal.
Okay.
And, as you go through that process, obviously, there's a lot of, adjusting that boundary. If you've got all property owners on the street, or most of them, that don't want to be in a PID, then you take it out.
But it still has to be contiguous, the rest of the bid.
It does need to be contiguous, and it needs to make some level of common sense. You know what I'm saying, as you draw the boundary.
Now, let me understand, you just said if there's a particular block and the majority of them don't want to be in the bid, you carve it out?
Yeah, as long as it's contiguous. I mean, if you just have to kind of weigh it as you go along. If a number of property owners right in the center of your boundary don't want it, but 90% of the rest of them do, they're probably going to be in it. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But if you've got a number of property owners that are kind of on the edge of a boundary that don't want to be in it, then you carve it out. So you just have to kind of play with it, and that's why we needed that tool. It allows you to just constantly kind of play with that boundary and see, what do the property owners want. And if everybody along 2nd Street doesn't want it, then you take out 2nd Street.
Let me ask you this. Have you seen the increase in residential appraisals?
I've experienced it.
Balancing what you're talking in overall corporate commercial increases in real estate values?
In the residential downtown?
Yes.
Yeah, I know it's gone up. I don't envision the PID incorporating the residential area.
You won't include any residential areas?
It's really a different animal, and I think if the residential neighborhood wants it, then they should establish it.
They
But
do a separate one.
It's a different kind of, it's a
More in
different-
keeping with what are the traditional kind of PIDs in this community.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my perspective.
Different
I think
different
all
kind of
the ones
services.
we have today, off the top of my head, are residential kids.
Yeah.
So no, I wouldn't see it. In fact, we're really only looking at this stage, not that it couldn't change, but down to 10.
Okay.
Good questions, and I think kind of to echo what Mr. Pittner said, the creation of the PID ultimately in downtown is the same as the creation of the PID anywhere else, and that is a property owner decision. The PID's not something that can be imposed by a city, county, or other unit of government. It truly is a self-imposed condition.
All right, let's keep moving down the agenda. Item number 5 on the agenda is the public forum opportunity. The opportunity for us to hear comments from citizens on matters related to the work of the local government corporation. So do we have any comments today from those who join us? Nice looking Texas Tech cap there, Robert.
Thank you. Paid for.
On more than one occasion? Or?
More than one.
All right. Hearing no comments in the public forum session, we will move to item number 6 on the agenda. This is an opportunity for this body to have a closed session, which I think we will exercise, to discuss a potential purchase, sale, or lease of real property, and to discuss with our legal counsel communication and advice regarding those sorts of matters, all per the Texas Government Code, sections 551.071, 072, and 087. And it is, let's call it 12 noon.